Hello everyone. Today you'll hear a short recap of the movie Punisher, War Zone. Billy Russotti, nicknamed the Beaut, arrives at a party hosted by his boss, Gaetano. He hates when anyone touches his face. Even while talking to his boss, he keeps staring at his reflection in the mirror. Billy is planning to organize the delivery of some kind of biological weapon to the port. The boss thinks Billy is just as much of a freak as his brother, who's locked up in a mental hospital. Frank Castle shows up at the party uninvited and silently takes out the guard at the entrance. The Punisher cuts the lights and appears before the guests with a flare. In one swift move, he decapitates Gaetano and snaps his wife's neck. Frank methodically takes down one gangster after another. When the lights come back on, he's hanging upside down from a chandelier, spinning as he wipes out the arriving reinforcements. A few more precise shots, and no one in the hall is left alive except Castle. 2 police officers had been watching the mob boss's house. After the massacre, one of them tries to arrest the killer, but realizing who he's dealing with, he tosses Castle the keys to his car so he can chase down Billy Russotti. Meanwhile, a group of park hour runners led by Maganty arrives at Billy's hideout. They work for him as couriers. Frank quietly takes out 2 guards and sneaks into the warehouse. There, he unknowingly kills undercover FBI agent Donatelli, who had infiltrated Billy's gang. Hearing the gunshot, Billy rushes in. After a brief fight, he falls into a glass crusher. Castle activates the machine. The gangster spins in a storm of shattering bottles, screaming in agony. Reinforcements arrive, forcing Castle to retreat. The Punisher notices a wire on the agent and only then realizes he killed one of the good guys. Soon after, the FBI arrests the rest of the gang. Having finished his job, Frank returns to his hideout through the subway tunnels. FBI agents find what's left of Billy among the shattered glass, barely alive, unlike Donatelli. At the agent's funeral, his wife and young daughter mourn. Castle shows up as well. A black FBI agent, Budiansky, promises the widow he'll find her husband's killer. They used to be partners. Meanwhile, Frank stands over the graves of his own wife and child. Budiansky arrives at the police station, furious. This vigilante has been doing whatever he wants for 4 years, and the cops have done nothing to stop him. Budiansky is sent to the basement, where Martin Soap, the only one working the Punisher case, has been reassigned. He's been tracking Castle for the past 5 years. Frank used to be a special forces instructor and a regular family man. But one day, during a picnic, his family accidentally witnessed a mass execution. They were gunned down as well. Frank was the only one who survived, and ever since, he has been wiping out every criminal family in New York. It turns out that the entire massive archive is dedicated solely to the Punisher's killings. Micro, his ally and weapon supplier, pays Castle a visit. The Punisher is thinking about quitting after killing an innocent man who was just doing his job. Billy, the Beaut, is released. He's lucky to be alive, but his entire face is wrapped in bandages. The gangster turns to the best plastic surgeon in New York. Billy remains optimistic, but his henchman Inco immediately throws up when he sees his boss's face. The surgeon uses polymers, titanium plates, and even a bit of horse skin. Billy is unhappy with the result, so he leaves a negative review by putting scissors into the doctor's brain. The Beaut's first priority is to get revenge on Frank Castle, and his deranged brother Jimmy will help him. By the way, Billy is no longer Billy. Mad Jimmy is strapped to a bed, hands and feet restrained. He's constantly kept on tranquilizers and fed by hand. Surprisingly, Jimmy actually likes his brother's new appearance. Jigsaw orders all the patients released from the asylum, while his brother decides to have some fun with a fat doctor. The cannibal plans to eat his kidneys. Frank is haunted by guilt. He goes to Agent Donatelli's house. The widow immediately points a gun at the uninvited guest. She realizes this is her husband's killer. Frank brings a bag of money. The Punisher is ready to take a bullet, but Angela doesn't pull the trigger. She also refuses to take the money. The gang shows up at a hotel. Out of habit, the mobster looks in the mirror, forgetting he's no longer handsome. Jimmy promises his brother will never see his reflection again and starts smashing mirrors with his own body. Jigsaw tries to do business with a guy from Eastern Europe, but when he's told to get lost, he slits the man's throat. His friend proves more cooperative. Christou will deliver biological weapons to the port to sell to the Arabs. For his посредничество, Jigsaw demands $12 million. Castle visits Micro and says he still intends to walk away and disappear. But the Punisher didn't consider that Billy would go after the rat's family. He plans to cut Donatelli's widow into pieces. Frank agrees. He has to finish what he started. Meanwhile, the gang is already heading to Angela's house, though Frank doesn't know it. He plans to reach Billy through the leader of the Parkour gang. Frank takes out another Yamakasa member and shoots Maganty in the knees. The man falls off the roof and starts begging Castle not to kill him. He quickly revealed that the mobster had gone to Angela's place. Bajanski and Martin were also tracking the Parkour gang, and they witnessed Castle execute Maganty. Meanwhile, the thugs stormed Angela's house. Just before the raid, Billy had handed all his money over to the agent and believed it was now being kept there. Bajanski pointed a gun at the Punisher, but immediately got beaten down and disarmed. Still, the bald cop wasn't about to back off so easily. Castle had to smash his head into a car window and dunk him in a puddle. Even so, the stubborn cop managed to cuff himself to Castle. The gang trashed the house but couldn't find the money. 2 patrol officers arrived, and the deranged Jimmy answered the door. He started beating one cop with a baseball bat, while Inco stabbed the officer's partner. The thugs searched the entire house. Only then did Angela admit there was a safe upstairs and gave them the code. Bajanski arrived at the house. Castle offered his help, but the agent ordered Martin to take him to the station. He planned to handle it alone. The FBI agent had to immediately throw away his gun because the gang was holding the family at gunpoint. Meanwhile, Jigsaw opened the safe and flew into a rage when he saw it was empty. Someone smashed a window. Inco went to check and was killed by the Punisher with a single blow. Bajanski disarmed Pitsy, but Castle simply blew his head off with a shotgun and escaped with the family. The brothers opened fire on the bald agent, but Martin came to his aid. They arrested the criminals once they ran out of ammo. Castle brought Angela and her daughter to his hideout, the only place they could be safe. Grace opened a drawer and found Frank's personal belongings, as well as items that belonged to his wife and daughter. The Psycho brothers were taken to the police station, where Senior Agent Miller arrived. A shipment of biological weapons was scheduled for that day, and only Billy knew where it would take place. The mobster demanded freedom and money, threatening that half of New York would die otherwise. The FBI agent agreed to the deal. As soon as the brothers saw the toxin, the police and FBI raided the place. Miller turned out to be a decent guy. He not only left them with $12 million but also handed over a file on Micro. That was another condition of the deal. Castle ordered a trustworthy gangster named Carlos to watch over the family and went to Micro's place. But the crazy brothers got there first. Micro was tied up in the back seat of their car. At Micro's home, Castle found it trashed and discovered his mother dead, with only the left side of her head remaining. The lunatics also found the Punisher's hideout. Mad Jimmy hacked Carlos to death with an axe, leaving no one to protect the mother and daughter. The Punisher was too late again. A note had been nailed to Carlos. Jigsaw offers to trade his life for the lives of the hostages. The Punisher finishes off his wounded ally to end his suffering and heads to a church, where he meets Bajanski. Frank learns that the gangster has full immunity, so the police won't help them, but Bajanski can ignore the system and try to save his partner's family. Jigsaw needs an army. He tracks down everyone the Punisher has ever crossed, visits the guys in the ghetto, talks to the Triad, and even buys beer for a group of Irish skinheads. 3 armed factions gather at a crime boss's hotel. Frank Castle is alone, but heavily armed and extremely dangerous. Bajanski asks Martin to help him and the Punisher. Together, they go to Tiberius, Krista's father, hoping he'll want revenge on the man who got his son a life sentence. Meanwhile, 3 armies prepare to defend the building, armed to the teeth. Jigsaw is holding the hostages in a former sauna. Tiberius's men also arrive. He lies to the Asians, saying he's there for the Punisher's head as well, and they let him in. Frank decides to spare Bajanski and knocks him out. The last gang pulls out AKs and opens fire on the Chinese. After waiting a moment, the Punisher jumps into the hotel from a neighboring building. That floor is occupied by neo-Nazis. Frank methodically fills them with bullets. One of them manages to shoot him in the back, but he recovers and finishes off the rest with dual Berettas, making his way one floor higher. Behind the wall, the ghetto crew is waiting for him. Meanwhile, the deranged Jimmy realizes they've lost cover and runs off to deal with Frank personally. Another group of gangsters lies in wait around the corner, but Castle seems to ignore them. Jimmy, on the other hand, attacks like a rabid animal, biting Frank and knocking his gun away. The cannibal threatens to bite off something worse, but for now sinks his teeth into his neck. The Punisher shakes him off and starts smashing him into bathroom stalls. Jimmy throws debris at him and runs back to his brother. Castle can't do anything. Jimmy is holding a gun to Grace's head. The Punisher is forced to drop his weapon. Jigsaw picks it up and empties it into Frank, leaving one bullet. Then he hands the gun back, offering a choice: kill either Micro or Grace, and he'll release the other hostage. Frank aims at his friend, but at the last second turns the gun and kills Jimmy instead. Jigsaw shoots Micro, but only him, because Castle is already on top of him, beating him with his bare hands. Frank pauses to free the hostages, then returns to finish the job. He impales Jigsaw with a spear and burns him alive. In the end, all the good guys survive, except Micro. Budyansky tells Frank to disappear. He won't arrest him. Angela finally forgives the killer, because even her late husband believed the Punisher was a good man. Martin tries to offer Frank a beer, but doesn't notice when he slips away. A random thug suddenly points a gun at Martin and demands his wallet. Looks like it's still too early for the Punisher to retire.